Maybe, maybe not.
Maybe.
All right, we're on. Hey guys, it's Ted Bogert.
Hi.
Welcome back to the Ted Show. Super excited to have my dear, amazing friend Candace Griffin on the show, and she's going to talk about why we call her the deal doctor, the relationship
I should have
saver.
worn a doctor's coat.
You should have. You know what? I should have brought my
one.
stethoscope. I don't own one, but we could buy one. Super excited to have you on the show. Is this our first one-on-one?
No. So we did one before, but we covered many of the, because you know I'm an entrepreneur.
That's right. We've done a few, but I'm very excited about this because I think the market's out there. What you're doing in the community is really big and awesome. And I think a lot of people don't know you're the best kept secret. So before we go into that, tell them a little bit about you.
Well, I'm Candace Griffin, born and raised in Orlando, Florida. So, you know, this is my town. I think I'm one of like 7 people that was born and raised here.
Lacey too. She was born here, raised here.
Yeah. There's a couple. And I love this place, right? It's my home. I'm proud. And this is where all of my connections and relationships started, and they've been flourishing ever since. And it's kind of how I ended up where I am.
All right, so you've told us nothing about where you came from and where you are, so I'm going to tell you that they'd like to know a little bit about, you weren't always the deal doctor.
No.
You weren't always the relationship saver. You weren't always working with the amazing investors you're working with. What did you do before?
Oh, okay. So I was in self-directed IRAs with New View Trust, right? That's where people take control of their retirement accounts, some of it, right? And invest it in things that they understand. This was so fascinating for me. And the relationships that came out of that were absolutely thrilling. Like they pushed the, I have to know everything about this button for me. And I became very passionate and obsessed with the topic and made a lot of friends in that space, right? So friends in that space really enjoy private investing, right? So investing outside of the stock market. And that's kind of how those pieces started coming together, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So tell me how that
started opening.
How did that, but you know, I feel like you've done a great job of figuring out where the niche is, figuring out where the need is. Talk about that, because we are in a crazy real estate market overall. Investor market. There are opportunities flying at people so quickly that I don't think they can keep up with them. So what do you do as the deal doctor? What do you do as the relationship saver? What is it that you're focusing on? Because you came up with that.
Yes.
And I love it, because that's how I look at you. I look at you as somebody, when I've got a scenario and I need help, whether it be residential, commercial, investor for a product or service, I think of you immediately, and I want them to do the same. So tell them a little bit about that so that they can also do the same.
Okay, well, I am the ultimate connector, right? But right now we'll talk about real estate. So if a deal falls apart for any reason, and it is not a homestead, so it can be a home for investment purposes, and it could also be an assisted living facility, right? It could be a hotel, it could be an apartment complex. If a deal falls apart because of funding, because maybe they're too good on their taxes, or maybe they're just a teensy bit over leveraged because they have one project going on here, and now this huge opportunity popped up and they can do it, and the banker knows they can do it, but their underwriting team says no, right? That banker calls me or tells them to call me, and I handle it until they're bankable. And then they go right back to their happy little relationship with their banker, and everybody's happy, right?
What is for a lot of people probably confusing, but I think that you simplify it in a way that people understand it. So what is it that you do to get them past that, to get them funded, to understand that it is usually a temporary kind of funding, right? Explain the difference.
So it's between 12 months and 5 years, right? It's under the radar. You pay interest only. It's just that capital push you need to get over the finish line and do what you need to do.
Yeah.
so that you can get the deal done and not miss out on the opportunity. It's a tool in the belt, right? So if something is turned, for example, one of the deals was a medical center, and they build this medical center. They don't sell the office condos off fast enough. The land next door becomes available, goes to the banker, his 20-year relationship with the banker, and says, you know, hey, let's get this done. Banker says no. We're able to handle it for probably 18 to 24 months until he can refi and cash out. Or an investor is doing a remodel on one of those nice vacation homes.
Yeah.
They're going to hold it for 12 months and a day. It makes sense to use us, right?
Yeah.
And just get it done. Just get it done. Or you can use us for the land or construction.
So
We had nationals.
Before we went live, people wanted to know, Candace, because I think that there's an interesting perception of hard money / private money / there's this perception that, you know, somebody's going to come and break your legs if you don't pay your payments. You know what I'm talking about. Break your kneecap.
They're going to come get you.
They're going to come get you. Talk about that, because one of the things that I loved is when we first talked about this, you're like, I don't want you to look at it as hard money. So explain a little bit of the difference, because I think realtors especially, but investors as well, want to understand why what you're offering is different.
Well, what I'm offering is different because it's a handful of investors that have a very specific type of real estate they like to invest in. And the rates are nothing like hard money. When people, when we develop this relationship and they hear about, you know, what we have to offer, it's very different than what you are hearing from a hard money situation. So, and the way that we vet a deal is completely different. It's just a different animal. I should be the first person you call when you get a turn down, right? I really should, because I will most of the time be able to take care of it.
Yeah. So what does that look like? Somebody comes to you, and then is the process that they have to provide the paperwork again?
No, it's no document. So no tax returns, no bank statements, no credit reports, no social security number. It's 100% asset based. So we make our decisions based on the asset. It can only be in Florida, and, you know, what's in the deal, right? And that can vary. And there's ways to become very creative. And there's the guys that do this collectively have been doing it for 105 years, right? There's just a handful of them, right? And my main mentor in this, he's been doing it for 25 years, right? So they have a method and it works, and they know what works and what doesn't. And I hear yes an awful lot, and I'm learning a lot about why they're able to say yes and how. I mean, it's shocking not to have to provide a tax return, right?
I think there's a lot of that. That's why I want people to hear what you're saying, because I think that if you took it at surface, if you weren't somebody I know, or you were just coming on the show, I would take myself off like this and then go, you know, bullshit. Because I think that's what people are thinking. So I want people to understand that's a natural thing, but that's not what we're talking about here. She actually has Candace has real solutions to what maybe some of your needs are. And we have we'll continue to send you business, because there are some deals like you talked about that we had a bunch of questions about this before I forget, because I will. People want to know about outside, intangible, I think is the word, investments. Like, you deal with a lot of larger scale things. I had a few people reference your events here at the Citrus Club in this room I happen to be in. So talk about that, because we do have a lot of people that follow that do stuff away from your residential market, your investor market, into the more business-oriented market.
Right. So there are a variety of ways to invest. So some people really enjoy investing in late-stage startups or roll-ups that are going to become public. And sometimes they like doing that because they have access to the CEOs and the entrepreneurs, and they have the ability to really understand the business model, and that can feel better than investing in the stock market.
Yes.
Right. So that's something that's very fun. And a lot of those things end up more on the institutional level. And we end up engaging with investment bankers and things like that for those. But it's so exciting to be around entrepreneurs. It's the same reason why I love real estate. In real estate, you're around people that are just digging in and getting it done, and they're passionate, and they're driven, and they're focused. And so the same thing that I love about realtors, I love about these entrepreneurs. You know, they just have a different vehicle that they're passionate about.
I think you're an entrepreneur. I am too. I think we think differently than a worker bee, if that makes sense.
Yes.
We just think outside. I have friends and family who are very much content in whatever those parameters are that have been established by their work or their career. This is different. This is definitely entrepreneur based, and I feel like it's a positive Orlando version of Shark Tank.
Yes, that's exactly
you guys
what it is. Yes.
Literally listen to people who have an idea, a concept, and it's not just I wrote it on a napkin and here it is, Candace. You really do work with people who have developed this, who are really have an amazing offering, whether it be tangible or intangible. And you take it and you listen. And then what you do, which is amazing to me, is you bring a whole bunch of people together who may or may not be interested. And I love the fact that they might not love this project, but you still include them because you never know. Entrepreneurs never turn their nose up at listening to a potential opportunity. Whether it works for them or not, doesn't matter.
Yep.
But you do a great job of that.
Thank you, my dear.
You're welcome.
I just love passionate people.
Yeah.
I see what they can do, right? I'm one of them, so, you know.
Well, I think a lot of, and you are, but I think a lot of people have the passion, but they don't have the resources or the access that we have. And so to be able to talk, that's why I wanted you to come on the show and talk about this so much, because I think there are a lot of people who will want to engage you post show, because I feel like they don't know where else to go. And if you send them to a traditional hard money, it seems like a complete oxymoron, but a traditional hard money, that is a different world than what Candace is talking about. And so we want you to think differently. If there are realtors out there, especially whose deals are not going to get funded,
foreign nationals,
like things that you would have a difficult time with, I would love you to reach out to Candace, because I think that at least you'll have a potential opportunity to close that deal, to make that deal work. And ultimately, isn't that what we want? Again, relationship saver, which is what the second part of this is. Why do you think relationship saver is important? You came up with that, and I love it.
You know, that's really something that happened that I didn't expect from the banker perspective, right? And the realtor perspective, because if the deal falls apart and you have no other options, title company, mortgage companies, I mean, you have no idea how many people I talk to that are like, oh my gosh, I had no idea this existed. Where were you 6 months ago? Where were you 2 months ago? And I'm just like, I'm trying to get the word out. You know,
it's a foreign concept to a lot of people. Excuse me, which is why I wanted you to come on the show, because I think it's so important for people to put a human face with a concept like this, because it is a concept that is outside the norm of what people think. Because once you get rejected from, let's say, a traditional loan, an investor loan, then you think, well, I just can't do it. And what we want you to do is to not think like that. We want you to at least reach out to Candace and her team and try to figure out if it's something that's actually doable.
Yep, absolutely. And oftentimes, if it's something that we can't do, I know somebody in that niche, because what I have is a very specific niche, and I will just make the introduction, and and you can, go from there. So it's just a way to, it's another tool in the box.
Yes.
And it is very specific, but it's wonderful and it works. And people are so grateful that oftentimes, there have been tears of happiness and gratitude.
All right. So how do people find you? What's the best way for them to reach out if they're interested and want to learn more?
Yeah, reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can text me at 321-948-3246. You can email me at griffininvestmentstrategies@gmail.com. But just text me. I mean, come on, that's what we do these days, right? It's a friendly, personal thing. And I'm always working because I love what I do. So I will answer.
All right. Candace Griffin. She's the deal doctor, relationship saver. You want to reach out to her, griffininvestmentstrategies@gmail.com. You can also find her on social media. I've tagged her. You can reach out to her. She's just as easy to get along with and as patient as she is on this show. Thank you so much for being on. That was really excellent. Oh, we lost your volume. Yep. There you go.
Is it back? Okay.
You're back. Thank you for being on the show. It was so good.
Thanks, Ted.
All right, Candace Griffin.
Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. And I can't believe you're not just outside here where we can go have a cocktail afterward.
I know.